Alright, today we're going to be looking at ISO. Okay. ISO, what is that? ISO is the ability to process film in a digital camera at an exponential rate. So basically you do not need a whole lot of light in the scenario to get the same picture as you would get with a greater source of light in this area. But it does come at a high price. But I'll show you a few things that I know about ISO. Keep in mind, I don't like using ISO at all, but I do use it every once in a while. Let's say I'm at a museum. The museum says you could take pictures at the museum, you just can't use a flash. What do? I can't use a flash. The museum's dark. Well, you grab yourself a camera with incredible ISO and you go to town because you don't need a flash. Alright, so we'll get into first how to change the ISO. So you're looking at an incredibly dark room. Let me change the filter here on the video camera to something a little bit better. Okay, what I want to do is show you the screen here. Okay, so I have this I button at the corner. If I click on it, filter, there we go. I'm going to have to go into this right here, ISO. Right now it's on an ISO of low. Well, let's crank this up to an ISO of 3200. Okay. Also, I have the exposure compensation set to +5. Now, if you want to stay that way, that's a good way to shoot pictures in almost complete darkness. Not really complete darkness, but at a museum, that's a great trick, is the ISO set to 3200 and then +5. Remember, at a museum you do not have a tripod, so the goal would be what? The ability to shoot off the tripod. Well, what I stated earlier in one of the previous videos was anything above 125 shutter speed is technically handheld with me. If you have Tourette's or something like that, I doubt you can do it, but if you have no twitching or no coffee for the day, 125 on up will be great to shoot. Okay, so we'll kind of keep that way. We're going to go back to Aperture. Take this loop and put it somewhere in the scene. I'll put it right about here. It's going to be different because I'm going to have the tripod gone and I'm going to shoot off tripod. So let me try this out. I'm trying to hand hold a camera in a very low lit situation and get clarity. Move that loop a little bit. Put it on right there. Ooh, that's not bad. And you can see the wood on there. That's not too awful either. The loop. Not bad at all. Okay, so now I've able to take a picture without a flash. Well, you can see right here in the background what happens is you get noise. Okay, this is that noise value I'm talking about, but really it's not all that bad. Let's do something real quick to show you how to get rid of the noise. I'm going to get out of Aperture because not everybody has Aperture. I'm going to export this as a master, and I'll export it onto my desktop. And then I'm going to go in, figure out which one was what. Now this is the one right here. I'm going to open this with Photoshop. Okay, so here I'm in Photoshop, and here I have this noise in the background. Maybe I want to get rid of that noise that's occurring. You can see it heavily on this log. Well, there is a neat little feature in here called noise reduction. So if I want to get rid of that noise, I can. It doesn't get rid of all of it, but it gets rid of some of it. Okay, but let's talk about prints for a second. Okay, so you can see this is pretty sharp right here. I'm not really worried about noise in this area. I'm more in the background. But let's talk about prints. Okay, what if I wanted to take this print and get it printed in my local place, like, oh, let's say Sam's Club, Walmart, whatever, wherever you get prints at. You can see if I start introducing a fill light to the situation, that noise just rears its ugly head. So you must make sure that your shot is perfect from the ground out. You can't add any extra fill lights to the situation or exposure, or it will have that noise and it appears really bad. Well, I'm going to just open this image and kind of explain to you how big pictures are nowadays. So this picture is huge. If I go to image size, you're looking at an 11 by 17 by 240 resolution. So that's pretty big. You can easily go to probably a 12 by 18 and get perfect clarity. Now, your average person, though, however, is going to get these printed, and they're going to go print, and they don't have the ability to print a 12 by 18 or an 11 by 17. They have the ability to print an 8 by 10 or 8.5 by 11. So here's what it looks like before you even mess around with it. It's huge, okay? So if I was to say, do this, and let's go 8 by 10. So the greatest thing is 10 here. So because of the ratio, you're going to get a 10 by 6, and you're going to have to mat it a little bit. But you can see everything shrunk down, and that's what I'm trying to state here. Everything shrunk down. Therefore, the noise is a moot point anyway, because everything shrunk down. Actually, noise helps the print in some fashion because it gives it something to lock onto as far as the pixels go. So when you're talking about ISO, you are going to get a lot of rebuttal about noise, but you also have to look at print size. Now, if you put it on the internet, that's a different story altogether. Of course, everybody is going to say, wow, that's really noisy. But they're going to understand that you're probably playing around with ISO anyway, so big deal. Here in Aperture, what I do want to show you is the fact that even though I shot that at a 3200 ISO, it only read it at a 1600 ISO. This is common for a Nikon D5000. It actually is using the 3200, but it only reads it at 1600. So just in case, so don't freak out if you ever see the metadata, it's a little bit off. Alright, that's ISO in a nutshell. If you want to see the counterbalance to it, let's say I wanted the low ISO, but I still wanted to hand hold my camera and not worry about noise, I can go like this. Okay, let me just put the camera. I'll change the ISO back to low. But I'll keep the exposure compensation on. Let me go back to Aperture, and I'll take another shot here with it off the tripod. And not too shabby. And I've had some caffeine today. One more. Yeah. So you can see the edges on that metal are sharp. You're getting a little bit of noise because the exposure compensation, but not nearly as bad as what you would have at 3200 ISO. So there's a way to flip-flop it. And you notice, even though I did crank it back to ISO low, the ISO still reads at 1600. So there's obviously some kind of connection problem between my camera and Aperture a little bit, because you saw me change it. Alright, well, anyway, that's ISO in a nutshell. Enjoy. On to the next video.